Morning, fellas. And we're all set to go here. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Or maybe the side ones. Yeah, good. All right, well, let's get started. And can you guys see the screen okay? We're kind of adjusting the lights here. Well, we're continuing our journey, and this morning we'll be reading verses 22 and 26 of Genesis chapter 49, and we'll be looking at Joseph, the blessing to Joseph. But before we read that text, 2 weeks ago we were here in the room and we met, and we looked at the blessing to Naphtali. And Naphtali is a doe let loose, gives beautiful words. The idea was from being bound to free, and then declaration, bound, free, declaration. And so we worked with that, and we ended the time last time with a table talk, or your thoughts. And I asked all of you to just meet around the table and to discuss those three words, bound, free, and declaration, declare, and how they relate to you at this stage of your life. So that's where we were 2 weeks ago. Bill taught last week, and so now we're going to be picking up with, again, our study with Jacob. So would someone read chapter 49, 22 through 26?
Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring whose branches climb over a wall. With bitterness archers attacked him. They shot at him with hostility. But his bow remained steady. His strong arm stayed limber because of the hand of the mighty one of Jacob, because of the shepherd, the rock of Israel, because of your father's God who helps you, because of the Almighty who blesses you with blessings of the skies above, blessings of the deep springs below, blessings of the breast and womb. Your father's blessings are greater than the blessings of the ancient mountains, than the bounty of the age-old hills. Let all these rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince among his brothers. Okay.
Thank you, Dave. Could you read again 22 through 24? I just want to hear that again.
Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring whose branches climb over a wall. Sorry, I just lost my chapter.
23.
With bitterness, archers attacked him. They shot him with hostility.
And then verse 24.
But his bow remained steady, his strong arm stayed limber.
All right. Okay. And that's good. There is a remainder 24, but that's good. The reason I had you read that is just simply because there is a real disparity in interpretation right there. I just wanted to get what yours said. Could you turn up the overhead lights? You can't see me on the video. Not that that's a little bit better. Not that that's very important, but just we have a light out over here, and that's kind of throwing us off here. So the millions viewing the video later, just so they can see who's talking. Yeah, that's a joke. So, all right, today, before I make comment, let me just move to the next slide because that'll really take us to what I want to say here. Well, okay, first observations here on the blessing to Joseph is there are three. One, this is the longest blessing of all the 12 in length. It is the most complex. I am sure as you were listening to David read that that text, you were going, where is this going? It seems to be disjointed. There's a lot going on in this. And because it's complex, it is the most obscure. And there is no question. There's a lot of different views on how this is to be interpreted. Dave, when Dave read, what was your version there?
I read the NIV.
So the NIV lines up with the text that was on the screen, the New American Standard, but that's not true. There are other texts that actually change the text to some degree and create a little bit different meaning. It's nothing to get alarmed about, but we're going to be looking at that as we study this today. So we won't be able to get through the whole text today. Today we're going to be just focusing in on 22 through 24 and just bite off that piece today, and then we'll continue on and finish it because it's a pretty complex blessing. So the text reads here. This is the not 22 through 20. Yeah, it is 22 through 24. But this slide is the birth background. And on every one of the blessings, we've been looking at the birth background of the son, how that correlates to the blessing, by their father. And then also we've been looking at the tribal allocation. So we'll be, following that same pattern. The birth background comes from Genesis 30, 22 through 24. Then God remembered Rachel, and God gave heed to her and opened her womb. So she conceived and bore a son, and said, God has taken away my reproach. And she named him Joseph, saying, may the Lord give me another son. So on observation, what I see, there are two aspects of surrounding Joseph's birth. One is the removal of the barrenness, but yet Rachel's words, as I said here, Joseph is the first son of Rachel and the 11th son of Jacob. His name means, may the Lord add. May the Lord add. Rachel expresses gratefulness to God for taking away her barrenness. There's the one hand. But yet projects beyond her immediate blessing, Joseph, to yet a desire for yet another son. It's like you and I, we have the blessing right in our lap, and we have a tendency as human beings to project out and really not to pause on what we have at the moment. Is that not true? Well, it is with me. So. Okay, so, all right. So there's, what we see is removal of barrenness and this projection out. As I look at Joseph, I don't see a connection with his character in regard to that being overlooked, the overlooks by any means. He is by far, I think he's labeled as Jacob as the most distinguished among the sons, as Genesis bears out the wonderful story of Joseph. So the tribal allocation is really interesting, and we looked at this several weeks ago when we looked at chapter 48, where Joseph brought his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, in to Jacob to be blessed. And in that way, guys, the way I've got it written here is Joseph's tribal allocation was given to his two sons. There is no tribe of Joseph later on. And of course, when you do the math, there's 12 sons. Levi is removed from that count because Levi is the priestly tribe covering the umbrella of all of the nation of Israel. But then that leaves a slot open, and Ephraim and Manasseh fill that slot. So there's why you get, we're back to 12 tribes. But Joseph represents two of those tribes. The blessing went through Joseph right directly to the two sons. In this sense, Joseph receives a double portion or blessing. Joseph is promised as fruitful in 48:4. When Jacob blesses Ephraim and Manasseh in 48, he's pronouncing to Joseph, the father of the two boys, that there will be fruitfulness. Of course, that ties right into the blessing later to Joseph. And that fruitfulness will occur through his two sons. Here is the tribal allocation, mid-Israel, mid and northern Israel, Ephraim and Manasseh, right here. And so the important thing there is Joseph does not, there is no allocation to Joseph. It's Joseph through his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. So, as we look at verses 22 through 24a, we're going to leave that phrase there at the end until next time. But as we look at verse 22, I've got a diagram here, and I'd like you to picture what it would be like out on a walk in a garden, maybe an English garden. Have you guys ever been in an English garden where it weaves its way and there's these beautiful stone sweeping walkway and flowers and different types of material, natural material around you, and the garden always has a wall. And maybe you entered into that garden through a rounded gate and a stone wall, and then you enter into the garden and you move your way through the garden, and as you approach the other side or one section of the garden, this is what you see. So this is how I envision this blessing unfolding to Joseph. Picture walking in a garden. At first appearance, right here, first appearance, which is here, there is a fruitful bough. There's a fruitful vine. If you were in fact, in Oregon, I was in Oregon last week, and we stopped. We drove through wine country, and of course, this is the time.